Hey, what's up guys, and welcome to another Arc Garage video. Today I'm gonna be fixing the leaky power steering hose on Alfa Romeo 147, and the same goes for Alfa GT. The problem that I have is more pronounced in the cold weather when the rubber shrinks and exposes all the cracks. But now that the weather is hot, there are no leaks, but it's a good time to fix this issue. Let's take a look underneath. The location of the puddle is somewhere in the middle on the back of the engine. You can see the power steering fluid residue right here, and it's basically all over the place. Now let's take a better look at the hose in question. You can see it's this one right here. It's covered in oil, and what I'm gonna be doing today, I'm basically gonna remove it and replace just this rubber part. The job is not tricky, and it's gonna take maybe like half an hour or 45 minutes. Now if we take a better look at this hose, you can see that it's composed both of the rubber and metal pieces, and that means that it can be tricky to remove if you haven't done it before, but today I'm going to show you how to remove it the easy way. Now there are two of them. They basically go to the front to the oil cooler, and the second one goes back. There's our oil cooler right there, and the hose that we need to remove is this bottom one. Now I've already drained the oil just to make the video a bit less messy. You got two of these clips on each side. Make sure you got your container beneath. Press on both of them and just pull the hose off. It can be sometimes stuck in place, but it just needs a bit more force. Now that I've done that, I'm gonna move on to this first bracket which holds these two hoses in place, and to remove it I'm gonna use my spanner to remove one 10mm nut. Also, you want to pay attention to these small rubber pieces which go around the metal part, and they're there for protection. Next, I'm moving on to the second bracket. This one is held in place by two 10mm nuts. There's the first one right there at the top, and there is one more on the bottom, which is kind of hard to see from this angle. And here's our bracket. You can see it's got the notch at the top, and it's basically there just to help you center it. Lastly, I'm gonna remove that main 17mm nut which is on the steering rack itself. One thing I have to mention is that you got two copper washers, one before the hose and one after, so when you remove this 17mm screw, one of them is going to fall down. And there it is. Now I'm just gonna remove this screw and the second washer. Here's the better look of this screw. As I said, you got two of these copper washers. One goes before and one after the metal piece of the hose. Now it's always a good idea to use new washers when you reinstall it. Moving on to the main trick to this little job, and that is the removal of the hose itself. If you've never done it before, the metal part is gonna give you trouble. So what you want to do is gonna push the hose all the way back and move it beneath this mount. Now you can basically just slide the hose out. You don't want to force it. If you feel it that it's stuck somewhere, just wiggle it around a little bit and get it loose. And there it is right there. Let's take a better look at the hose now that I removed it. As I said before, the trouble is in this rubber piece, which essentially leaks like crazy in the winter time. When it gets hot, there are no leaks whatsoever. The idea right here is essentially to replace this rubber part only with another piece of hydraulic hose, which I'm just gonna clamp down. However, if you don't feel comfortable doing that, you can basically take this hose to for reparation, or you can buy a new one. But buying a new one is very tricky and they are very hard to find. Alright, I've taken my measurements and I've cut the new piece to size. I am basically gonna use this piece of hydraulic hose. Keep in mind that you don't want to use any hose because you don't know how it's gonna react to power steering fluid. And as I said, you can take your damaged piece for reparation or try to get a new one or the one from the junkyard. However, keep in mind that this is a common issue on these cars, and I've replaced at least half a dozen of them. So getting one from the junkyard is not gonna be a good idea. As you could have seen, I've just taken the angle grinder and cut this breast piece off. Keep in mind that you don't want to damage the metal piece of the hose, otherwise it might leak in the future. And I'm just gonna use my flathead screwdriver to get it off. I'm gonna spread it a bit more, and there it is. Now this metal part of the hose should be intact. You don't want to damage it because you'll basically ruin the whole thing. The new hose is gonna go over it just to this little notch. You can see that the metal piece is also flared at the end, so I'm just gonna put the new clamp right here and it's gonna hold it in place. I'm gonna clean it with a brake cleaner just to get the residue power steering fluid off. Next, I'm gonna apply just a thin layer of this automotive silicone. It's gonna help me move the hose around a little bit just to get it in place, and after it dries it's gonna give it a good seal. Time to reinstall the new hose, and one thing that I have to mention is that I'm using these high quality steel hose clamps. The reason behind that is that I can get them really tight and I can be sure that the hose is gonna stay in place. If you use the cheap stuff, they have a potential to slip or break, and that can result in a future leak. Now I'm basically gonna repeat the same thing on the other side as well. I've reinstalled the hose in the reverse order that I removed it, and it's time to refill the system. This particular car is going to take the Dextron 2 power steering fluid, and the quantity is going to be 1.2 liters. However, this is a 2003 147, and you always want to check and make sure that you are putting the right fluid and quantity in. The quantity is going to be a bit off since there is going to be some leftover fluid in the system. I am gonna put a bit more fluid over the max since I didn't bleed the system yet. After I bleed it, the level is going to drop. Bleeding the system is very simple. I'm just gonna start up the car, turn the steering wheel all the way to the left. Keep it there for a second. I'm gonna turn it all the way to the right, and I'm gonna repeat this process a couple of times. Don't forget that after this you still have to check the fluid level again to make sure that it is at the right level. I'm gonna check the fluid again. I'll let the car run for a couple of minutes so it's got hot. And that is another thing you gotta pay attention to. You can see on this little dipstick you got two sides. One is for when the fluid is hot or at 90 degrees, and the other side is for when the fluid is cold. So this is basically the hot side. I'm gonna try to give you a better look. You can see that it says right there 90 degrees and the fluid is basically at the max. Now if I turn this thing to the other side, you can see right there that it says 20C, and it's basically there just to help you check the fluid level when the car is cold. So that's basically it. I gotta add that this is a proven method. I've done this to multiple cars, and I've even done 1500 kilometers on this one since I've fixed it, and I've had no leaks. Anyway, that would be all for this video. I hope you find it useful. If you did, hit that like button and support our channel by subscribing.